everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So I actually wanted to talk about The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 2 and give some death predictions because I haven't done this in quite a while. Obviously in videos I'll reference things sometimes of like, well, maybe this character dies or whatever, but I want to give some official death predictions here so that after the season is over, I can look back and see what I actually got right in terms of character deaths and also what I got wrong. So yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. Maybe I'll end up being very, very wrong here, but I actually think that I could be like maybe 100% right with this, or at least very close to that, like 80 to 90% I think I got. Definitely post your predictions down below as well. Like if you do agree with me, cool, but also if you don't agree with me, then definitely post your predictions on who you think is going to go this season. But yeah, before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. Now, let's start off with, I guess, the very first character here that I do think is going to die in Season 2, and that is going to be Madame Janae. So yes, I do think Madame Janae is going to die in Season 2. I think it makes a lot of sense in terms of where the story is going for Season 3, and that is Spain. A lot of the story could play a role potentially, but I just think it's possible that the villain for Season 3 is going to be much bigger than Madame Janae in terms of a like threat level and whatnot, and there's going to be a whole other story here worked out. It doesn't mean that like any connection to Season 2 will be completely lost. I think that there will be connections, but I think Madame Janae, because they are going to be starting a new arc, right? And they always do 2-season arcs all the time. The Walking Dead did the same thing. It's always like every arc was 2 seasons, or at least about that anyways. I think that makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to say Madame Janae, she dies, and I think she'll die from variant walkers. That's my prediction. Next, I think, is Codrone. Do I think he's going to die? Yes, I do think he's going to die just because the trailer really seems to tell us that. Maybe that trailer is just completely fooling us and maybe he doesn't actually die in the end, but I just feel like there's a really amazing opportunity here to have him a variant walker, like a super walker, right? Because that was one of the cool things of Season 1 was just seeing the super walkers and whatnot. But imagine if it was somebody you know who became a super walker. That would be so exciting. So I could see Codrone becoming that. And I think that would be a crazy scene, right? Like after he's been doing all these good things, this and that, helping out our group. I don't know where the setting is. Maybe it's at the nest, but you see Codrone there as a variant walker or super walker. And he's just like running at you, right? Like I think that would be absolutely insane. And maybe that's how, you know, the story ends there for Codrone. And we end up getting Daryl versus super walker Codrone, right? I think that would be insane if we got something like that. So yes, I do think Codrone is going to die in Season 2 here. Now, the next character here up on my list is Laurent. Do I think Laurent's going to die in Season 2? Yes, I do think he actually is, because it doesn't seem like any of the characters are really in Season 3 as of right now. I mean, it really depends. Again, like, just because they're not there doesn't mean that they die. Like, they could literally have been just like, you know, oh, I just want to stay here because of this and that. I just feel like it doesn't really make a lot of sense. And I'm kind of predicting a different ending here. And I do think that Laurent for sure is going to die. And I would say exactly what I think the ending would be, but I don't want to spoil my my other predictions that I made for other characters. So I'll just say that I think Laurent is likely going to die in Season 2, and it's likely going to happen in the finale. Now, the next character here is Isabel. Do I think Isabel's going to die in Season 2 of The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon? No, I'm going to say no. I think that she probably will say goodbye to Daryl. I think there's a good chance that maybe she does, you know, do something else in terms of, I mean, that's the thing. I don't really know what the story is going to be. Like, France is so close to Spain that, like, even if they are in Spain, it doesn't mean that they can't get help from people who are in France because they are very close together, right? Like, I think that is possible, but I just don't know as of right now if that's going to be the case, and I just don't see them killing off Isabel. Like, maybe there's a scene where Isabel and Laurent die together, but I just don't think that's going to happen here. I think that Isabel, if anything, if there's going to be a goodbye at all because Daryl and Carol are going to Spain, then I think Isabel just decides to stay back, and maybe she goes back to what she was doing before, right? I could definitely see that. So I'm going to say no for Isabel, which is the first character on my list here to not die. Next up on my list is Lo Sang. Do I think Lo Sang's going to die? Yes, I do think so. He was a really cool character, but I just don't see the nest surviving. Like, that's my whole thing about Season 2 is, like, I don't see the nest actually surviving. Maybe it does. I think that would be really cool if it does, and then Daryl and Carol just leave. And this way, a lot of characters could just survive and stay there. but that's too happy of an ending after what we just got here. And I think it's going to be a much more, of a bittersweet ending where a lot of people go their separate ways and Daryl and Carol are going to end up in Spain sort of thing. So I think Lo Sang, because there's going to be some conflict with Daryl as well, I just feel like that means there's likely going to be a death. And I think that, I do think Lo Sang's going to die. Falu, do I think Falu's going to die here in season 2? Yes, I also do think Falu is going to die here in season 2 as well. And the reason why, it is simply just because there's a lot of characters on the show. And if the nest is gone and if every other place is gone, I don't really know where they're going to go next. And I just feel like he would be a good character death for like episode 2 or 3, because I know episode 1 starts off with Falu, I think, being trapped somewhere and they have to go and save him. And then, I think maybe that fails or something. And then maybe he dies in the first couple of episodes. And so I'm just going to say, as of right now, I think that Falu is likely going to die here in season 2. Now, in terms of Sylvie, will she die this season? No. I don't think Sylvie's going to die here in season 2. I actually think the ending that I sort of see happening here is Isabel and Sylvie are going to be like, I don't really know what to do, this and that. And I just, I think after Laurent's death, Isabel and Sylvie are going to be wondering what their future is and just like, what do they do next? And I think that right there, maybe there's another storyline and they go and help build up this community, or maybe the nest has fallen, but maybe, they do actually get rid of the variant walkers, but they decide to stay to try and rebuild this in, Laurent's honor kind of thing. I could see something like that, but I don't see Sylvie dying here in season 2 because she wasn't the biggest character in season 1, but I could tell they were trying to give her more scenes. So I think in season 2, they're going to give her a lot more scenes. She'll be a bigger character, which usually means that the character is going to die. But I think in this case here, because she's very close with Isabel, I think they'll both survive. That's my prediction anyways. Now, Ash. Is Ash going to die in season 2? Yes, I do think Ash is going to die in season 2. Just because he's really not in a lot of the footage. Like, the footage that we see of him in the trailers and all the teaser trailers is really the same things. It's, when Carol first meets him in America, and then when they first get to France, it's like he's there for the beginning, and then he's gone. And then there's a lot of shots of Carol just walking around everywhere in France by herself. So, and the other 2 characters are gone as well. So I feel like something's going to happen there where maybe those 2 characters kill Ash, Carol gets away, or something like that. But that's kind of my prediction as of right now. I don't think Ash is going to make it. I just don't see that happening. Now, in terms of my next character, do I think Carol's going to die in season 2? No, obviously not. Carol's going to survive. I mean, if this was the final season, then I would be saying, depends on where the story's at. It really does. Like, that's the thing about the main characters. They're very safe right now, but when we get to that very last season of these shows, and depending on like how the reunion and endgame stuff will happen, like at that point, it's like, any of these characters can die. And that's going to be exciting about the whole endgame story in general, right? Like, just how do they handle all of that? Because every character there can die, right? Like, every single big character is going to be all together in that show. And really at any point, any one of them can die. And it's going to feel, scary literally the entire time watching any episode. So, but in terms of season 2 of The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, does Carol die? No. And so for the last character, Daryl, does Daryl die in season 2? Obviously not. So that was my list here. I think I got every single character here, at least all the main characters that I could remember. There might be some other characters that I'm forgetting. There's also going to be newer characters that we don't even know yet. Some characters might show up from like the very first season that weren't really big characters, but from the characters that I could remember that I would consider to be like main characters and also like side characters, this is sort of how I think it's going to go. So the only characters I see surviving season 2 really are just Daryl, Carol, Sylvie, and Isabel. Those are the only 4 characters I see surviving. I think Ash, Falu, Lo Sang, Laurent, Caudron, and Madame Genet are all gone this season. And I feel like a lot of these characters are going to die in like the last 2 episodes. I could see Laurent dying maybe in episode 5, or I don't know. I just feel like this is going to be a really insane moment because Norman Reedus has been teasing this, right? Like he said, the finale of season 2 is the best 1 hour of Walking Dead anything ever, or whatever he said, because he said something like that. And to me, I'm just thinking, the variant walkers are going to be everywhere. You could lose the nest. all of that, but that has to mean big character deaths as well, like just a lot of deaths too, right? So I think that that's what that means. I do think that there's going to be a lot of character deaths. I think for a lot of people who have been like, The Walking Dead never kills off anybody, this and that, I think that's going to change this season. Personally, I think there's actually going to be quite a bit. And this is really the first time in a long time, like really long time, that I've really predicted going into a season that all of these characters would die. So, yeah, that's my list here, but definitely let me know down below your list on who you think is going to die this season, because it is going to be very different. Obviously, I think some people think the story's going to go in this direction, and you could be totally right with that. And so maybe this character does survive, right? I feel like when I'm looking at it and I'm trying to compare the ending to season 2 of The Walking Dead, which ended in a very tragic way, I just think that it makes sense that The Walking Dead season 2 or Daryl Dixon season 2 would end in a very similar way. Like, the farmhouse was on fire or whatever in The Walking Dead season 2. I think the nest will be on fire and they basically lose all of that. And then Daryl leaves with Carol. They go somewhere else, this and that. And I think that there will be some sort of ending scene sort of thing, I think at the end of season 2 that really builds up to season 3 and why Daryl and Carol go there, like to Spain. And then I think Isabel and Sylvie, after losing everything, are just going to be like, yeah, well, we're going to go back to, I don't know where, go back to somewhere to rebuild. And I think Daryl's going to want Isabel to come with him, but she's not going to be able to. She's going to be like, I have to stay here. Like, this was Laurent's home. This is where, things were really good for him, this and that. And I want to be back to, a place that I can call home. And I think that's going to be the thing, is that Daryl's home is where Rick is and Isabel's home is where Laurent is, right? And Laurent would, I guess, be at the nest, or depends on, what happens there. But I just think that makes sense for the ending here. And then, yeah, obviously a lot of build up for season 3 and whatnot. So I don't know, but definitely post your thoughts down below. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video. Make sure to be a subscriber if you want all my Walking Dead content like this, and I'll see you guys in the next one.